Welcome to Behind the Mic with AudioFile magazine, where you will always have great suggestions for your next audiobook. I'm Michele Cobb, and we're celebrating AudioFile's selections for the best audiobooks of 2024. Today, we're talking about children and family listening, and narrator Hope Newhouse is with us. But first, here are AudioFile selections for best children's audiobooks of the year. The Beautiful Game by Saied Méndez, read by Maria Liatis. Bridges Instead of Walls by Mavis Staples and Carole Boston Weatherford, read by Mavis Staples and Adenrele Ojo. Free Period by Ali Terese, read by Josephine Huang and Cassandra Morris. Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundle, read by Samuel West. Olivetti by Ali Millington, read by Christopher Gebauer and Simon Vance. And Tree, Table, Book by Lois Lowry, read by our guest today, Hope Newhouse. Hello, Hope, and congratulations on narrating one of the best children and family listening audiobooks of 2024.
Hi, Michele. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, it would be super great if you would tell us a little bit about Tree, Table, Book.
Yeah, so my daughter calls this the Sophie book. It's the story of two Sophies. One of them is 11 years old, and the other is her best friend in the whole world and next door neighbor who is 88 years old. And so it's a story of their friendship. And in the book, the adults think that older Sophie's cognition is declining. So that's a word that younger Sophie hasn't heard. And she looks it up and she uses this Merck manual that she borrows from her friend Ralphie, whose dad is a doctor. And she's very smart and organized, and she wants to prove that her best friend is just fine. There's nothing wrong with her brain. And so she takes her through this cognition test. And it's really sweet, all their conversations. And, it turns out that older Sophie is forgetting some recent memories, but she has very vivid memories of her past, especially her childhood in Poland. And she shares some stories that she's never shared with anyone before.
Lovely. Now, I grew up with Lois Lowry, and she is a legendary and beloved children's book author. Did you feel any extra pressure to be narrating one of her books?
Yes, definitely.
I'm not surprised.
Oh my gosh, I read Number the Stars in my fifth grade class. I had a teacher and I didn't really love any of the books she chose until Number the Stars. I just loved that. It was my favorite book that year. And so when Harper reached out and asked me to narrate one of Lois Lowry's books, it was really just unreal. And it felt weird to do my usual process for prepping and recording. Like I kept being like, yes, but I'm prepping the book for Lois Lowry. So I kept thinking I should be doing something momentous, but ultimately, obviously, in my process, I treat every character and story thoughtfully. So the momentousness is all Lois's characters coming through.
Well, it's so lovely that these books really have sat with us since our childhood and we remember them. And to be
Mm,
able to revisit one of the favorite authors of our childhood sounds amazing to me. So,
it's very special, yeah, really special. And she's still writing meaningful books.
exactly. Now, are there any particular joys or challenges when you're narrating for an audience of young listeners, especially when you have a child? I would feel extra pressure myself.
I really love it. I think narrating children's stories is one of my favorites. Just because these stories in general are so essential to our formation as like thinking, feeling human beings. It's just an honor to get to narrate for children. And I think that the stories that are written for children too are really, they may seem simple on the outside, but they're really impactful when you dig in. And I don't mind getting street cred with my daughter and her friends. So, but yeah, obviously have to do a good job because, they're very honest critics. They will tell you exactly what they think. But also as an actor, I think it's one of the most fun genres. You get to create vibrant characters and that's really fun. Except the hardest part is probably reliving parts of your own childhood. I think like those middle school novels really bring up feelings I'd rather keep buried.
Oh, yes. I can completely relate to that.
But, then you're an adult, so it's kinda like you're getting to tell your younger self those stories as well, but, yeah, it's not always the easy emotions.
Well, it's a good piece of the lifetime journey to be able to revisit and meet those challenges again, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and then, be with the younger generation as they go through them, so
Oh, yes. Ooh, those are rough years. So what has stayed with you about Tree Table Book?
this book is the book that I narrated that made me cry the most, not because it's the saddest book I've narrated, it's not, but it's so tender and the relationships felt so true for me. Like, it just reminded me how important, what we were just saying, those intergenerational friendships and relationships are, and how they can make you feel connected to the past or the present, in a way that gives you a lot of perspective about life. And especially when, like, you're a young person and you find out that there are things in the world that you can't fix, like, war and sickness and poverty, or in Sophie's case, cognition decline. And like, as somebody who's kind of midlife right now, the book really encouraged me to lean in places where I realized I was the older Sophie now, where I had experience or history or just the capacity to, like, show up and be there with someone who's growing up. And then in the parts of my life where I'm still the younger Sophie, it reminded me that, you really want to listen to those personal stories from older generations, because they're precious, and that person is the only one who knows that story. So yeah, those friendships, just, it really stayed with me.
I'm so glad. And it shows in the narration how connected to the story and the characters you were. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Hope Newhouse about Tree Table Book by Lois Lowry. If you've enjoyed today's podcast episode, you're in luck because we've been talking about best audiobook narrators all month long, and we have more episodes already released for you to jump right into listening. Just scroll back a bit in your podcast feed, and you can find the full list of 2024 best audiobooks at audiofilemagazine.com. I'm Michele Cobb. Thanks for listening.
Brilliance Publishing proudly presents today's episode of Behind the Mic.